Hi guys, it's Miss Udo. Today is Wednesday, January 6th, and today's lesson is called Using an Array Model for Multiplication. Let's begin. Before we get started, please make sure that you have your math journal and a pencil handy. If you do not have a math journal, please make sure that you have something to write with and something to write on. Also, please make sure that you have your Google Classroom tab open, as you will need to access the Google Classroom in order to get to your assignment after our live lesson. You will also need to make sure that you are fully equipped with an open mind and a positive attitude. Let's quickly review our math norms. Our first norm is that errors are gifts that promote discussion. Number two, ask questions until ideas make sense. Number three, talk about each other's thinking. Number four, the answers are important, but they are not the math. And number five, use multiple strategies and multiple representations. Speaking of multiple strategies and multiple representations, today we are going to be talking about a strategy that you are able to use for multiplication called making an array. Let's begin with our warm up. Today, we will only have one warm up question. It says, you have 4 packets of seeds with 3 seeds in each packet. Write a multiplication sentence to describe how many total seeds you have. We did this yesterday. Again, the question says you have 4 packets of seeds with 3 seeds in each package. Write a multiplication sentence to describe how many total seeds you have. Please write your answer at this time. All right, well, let's talk about it. Yesterday, we learned that numbers can be placed in equal groups, or items, more specifically, can be placed in equal groups. On this particular problem, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal groups. That means that 4 is the first factor in our multiplication sentence. The next factor in our multiplication sentence is determined based on the number of items that we have in our group. In our group, we have 1, 2, 3 seeds. And there are 3 seeds in each of the groups. So that tells us that our second factor is 3. The product of our multiplication sentence or multiplication equation is the total number of seeds that we have. We can figure this out by skip counting by 3s or counting all of the seeds. If I skip count by 3, there are 3, 6, 9, 12 total seeds. So my multiplication sentence is 4 times 3 equals 12. How did you do, everyone? Well, today's objective is that I can use an array to solve a multiplication equation, and I can also make sense of problems. Our key terms for today are array, row, and column. Let's take a look at our anchor chart. This anchor chart has a picture of 2 arrays. Today, we are going to talk about what makes an array. Arrays are made of rows, which are straight lines of items that go straight across, as well as columns, which are equal numbers of items going straight down. When you put your rows and columns together, you have an array. So let's get started. These are the same seeds from our warm-up problem, but this time the seeds have been rearranged. Take a look at the box. And notice that now the seeds look a little different. They are no longer just in piles in the packet, they are now much more organized. Look at our garden. Are the seeds organized in straight lines? Answer that question for me on the side of your screen. Yes, the seeds are organized in straight lines that go straight across. The straight lines that go straight across are called rows. Also notice that the seeds are organized by straight lines that go down. The straight lines that go down are called columns. When you have equal rows and equal columns, you have created an array. Let's take a look again. Does each line have the same number of seeds? Answer for me at the side of your screen. Yes, each line has the same number of seeds. If I want to count the number of seeds in each row, I could count straight across, and there are 1, 2, 3 seeds in the first row, 1, 2, 3 seeds in the second row, 1, 2, 3 seeds in the third row, and also 1, 2, 3 seeds in the fourth row. I could also count the number of seeds in each column. Remember, our columns go up and down. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds in the first column. 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds in the second column. 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds in the third column. Well, let's take a closer look. What is it that we call these boxes of seeds? We just learned a new vocabulary term. What do you call the groups of seeds that are running from left to right? Please write that word at the side of your screen. Did you say that they're rows? That is absolutely correct. We call each of those groups a row. Notice that your rows create equal groups, just like the pictures we looked at yesterday. So let's see if we're keeping up. Using your Nearpod to answer, how many rows are in this array? How many rows are in this array? Please write your answer on the screen now. Remember, our rows are the groups that go straight across. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 rows in our array. Well, how many seeds are in each row? How many seeds are in each row? Write your answer on the screen at this time. Did you count the seeds in each row? If you did, you should have noticed that there are 1, 2, 3 seeds in each row. Remember, they're equal groups. So if there's 3 seeds in the first row, there are also 3 seeds in the second and third row. How many seeds are in each row? There are 3 seeds in each row. So, if we know that there are 4 rows and that there are 3 seeds in each row, we should be able to write a multiplication expression. Our rows are just like our equal groups from yesterday. The number of rows tells us what our first factor is. In this particular problem, our first factor would be 4. The number of items in each row tells us our second factor. So the multiplication expression that represents our problem is 4 times 3. Let's talk about how we would figure out how many seeds we have in all. We can figure out how many seeds we have in all by skip counting. Use your skip counting to tell me how many seeds are in the third row. The third row is the row that I have just circled. Using your Nearpod, tell me how many seeds do we have so far? Did you say 9? If you did, you're absolutely correct. If we are skip counting by threes, we count 3, 6, and then 9. But there's one more row there. In your Nearpod, please tell me how many seeds we have in all, the number that would go in this box. That's right. If we're skip counting by threes, we would count 3, 6, 9, and then 12. There are a total of 12 seeds in our array. Let's take a look at it another way. The question says, how many rows of 3 equal 12 seeds? How many rows of 3 equal 12 seeds? Answer the question on the side of your screen. Well, how many rows did we say that we had, guys? We said that there were 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. There are 4 rows of 3 to equal 12. So let's write our multiplication fact that describes this array. Let's start with the number of rows. In your Nearpod, remind me again, how many rows do we have? Great job. We have 4 rows. Now, in your Nearpod, tell me the size of each row. How many seeds are in each row? That's right. There are 3 seeds in each row. All right. We have another array to look at here. We are going to find the total number of seeds in this array by skip counting. And at the end, we are going to write how many total seeds we have. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to figure out is how many seeds there are in the first row. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 seeds in the first row. So our first number is 5. That means to figure out how many seeds are in our array, we are going to skip count by 5s. In your Nearpod, please write the next number that goes in our box. How many seeds do we have after we count the next row? That's right, we would have 10 seeds. Great job, guys. Go ahead and count that next row for me. When you counted the next row, did you say that we now have 15 seeds? Absolutely. Go ahead and count that last row for me, please, at this time. That's right. Now, once we've counted the last row, we now have a total of 20 seeds. Let's see if we can represent this array as a multiplication fact. Based on our array, we have 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. We also know that there are 5 seeds in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we have 4 rows, and we have 5 seeds in each row, what is the product? How many total seeds do we have? Please answer on your Nearpod. That's right, guys. During our skip counting, we discovered that there are a total of 20 seeds because 4 times 5 equals 20. Great work, everyone. And so here's my next question for you. We've solved 4 times 5 and determined that it equals 20. What do we call this number 20? What do we call the number 20? Do we call it the sum? Do we call it the product? Or do we call it the difference? Answer on your Nearpod at this time. You are absolutely correct, guys. Whenever we are multiplying, the answer to a multiplication equation is called the product. Great job. Let's take a look at a new array. How many rows of seeds are there? And how many seeds are in each row? Let's start with how many rows there are. In your Nearpod, please tell me how many rows of seeds are there. Let's count our rows together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did you say 6? If you did, you're absolutely correct. There are 6 rows. Now in your Nearpod, Answer our second question. How many seeds are in each row? We can count those together as well. 1, 2. And remember what we said, in an array, there is the same number in each row. So we know that there are 2 seeds in each row. So now I would like for you to write a multiplication sentence that describes each array. Remember, when you write your multiplication sentence, it needs 2 factors and a product. Please write the multiplication sentence that describes this array in your Nearpod at this time. All right, guys. So we said we would start with the first factor, which is the number of rows. We determined that there are 6 rows of seeds. The second factor is the number of seeds in each row, and there are a total of 2 seeds in each row. The last number is our total number of seeds, or our product. We could skip count by 2's to figure this answer out. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 6 times 2 equals 12. How did you do, everyone? All right. Well, now it is time for you to add this to your notes. Everyone, please take out your notebook and your pencil. Please read along. I'm going to read the question out loud. It says, Emma collects rocks. She arranges them in 4 rows of 3. Draw Emma's array to show how many rocks she has altogether. Then write a multiplication equation to describe the array. I'm going to read our problem one more time. Emma collects rocks. She arranges them in 4 rows of 3. Draw Emma's array to show how many rocks she has altogether. Then write a multiplication equation to describe the array. The first thing that I would like for everyone to do on your math journal, I want you to write the words and numbers 4 rows of 3. On the top of your paper, write 4 rows of 3. All right, after you've written 4 rows of 3, we are now going to draw Emma's array. Remember, Emma's array should model 4 rows of 3. At this time, please draw an array that shows 4 rows of 3. Draw an array that shows 4 rows of 3. Teachers, if you need to pause the video to give them time to draw, definitely feel free to do that. Now that you've drawn your array, I want you to write the multiplication equation. Write a multiplication equation for 4 rows of 3. And then we're going to check our work. Write a multiplication equation for 4 rows of 3. All right, guys, are we ready to check our work? So the first thing that you were asked to do was to just write the words 4 rows of 3. After writing the words 4 rows of 3, you were asked to draw an array. Let's draw an array that models 4 rows of 3. Well, the first thing that we need to remember is that the number 3 tells us how many items are in each row. So we know that our array is going to have 3 rocks in each row. 1, 2, 3. The number 4 tells me how many rows I will have. So we are going to have 4 rows. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So your array should look something like mine. My array has 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are 3 rocks in each row. 1, 2, 3. Now, the next thing that you were asked to do was to write an equation that represents our problem. We know that our first factor is the number of rows, which is 4. We also know that the next factor is the number of items in the row, which is 3. The only thing left to find is what is the product, or how many total rocks does Emma have. Now, there are several ways that we've discussed finding this answer. You could count up all of the rocks. You could use skip counting. Whichever strategy works for you is what you are going to do. I'm going to use skip counting because we've seen a very similar problem already. My first row has 3 rocks. If I add another 3 for my second row, I have 6. My next row brings me to 9. And my last row brings me to 12. So 4 times 3 equals 12. How did we do, guys? Did you get the answer correct? I hope so. Well, now it's time for your final challenge. For this problem, you are going to answer in your Nearpod. For this problem, you are going to answer in your Nearpod. The problem says, Joshua has organized his toy cars into an array. The first question is, how many rows of cars are there? How many rows of cars are there? All right. If I count my rows, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 rows of cars. I've got another question for you, and it's not on my screen, but I'm going to write it up here. My next question for you is, how many cars are in each row? How many cars are in each row? Answer the question in your Nearpod at this time. Well, remember, we learned that every row is going to have the same number of cars in order for it to be an array. So if I count my first row, there are one, two, three, four cars in my first row, which means that there are four cars in every row. So my answer here is four. My last step for you is to write a multiplication equation that describes the total number of cars. Write a multiplication equation that describes the total number of cars. Write that in your Nearpod at this time. Well, in order to figure out our product, we're going to have to do a little work, but we can go ahead and tell what our expression is. We know that the first part of our multiplication expression is going to be a factor, and our first factor is the number of rows, which is 4. The next factor in our multiplication expression is going to be the number of cars in each row, which was also 4. But we've got to do just a little more work to figure out what it equals. We could figure it out by skip counting by fours. The first row has 4 cars. If I add another 4 to this one for my second row, I have 8. If I add another 4, I have 12. And one more row 4 will give me 16. This means that 4 times 4 equals 16. Great job, guys. You worked so hard today. I thank you so much for your time. Please go to your Google Classroom and work on your practice problems now. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.